when I was 14 years old. In 1967, my family lived right on the shores of Lake Erie. And 9 miles away from my house was a river called the Cuyahoga River, which ran right through downtown Cleveland. Cleveland was an industrial hub at the time. So all that effluent that came from the industrial process was being dumped into the Cuyahoga River, as well as rivers all over the world. I'd go swim in the ocean and see all these dead and dying fish in the water, and it just horrified me. Lesions on them, tumors, they were coming to the surface to try to get some last gasp of air because of all the industrial waste that the city and everybody was throwing into the waterways. And the Cuyahoga River caught on fire. It burned for 3 days. The river caught on fire. Think of that. This was just insane what we were doing to waters. And even at a young age, I knew I wanted to help the fish in some way as I could. My name is Kurt Lieber. I'm the president and founder of Ocean Defenders Alliance. We're a bunch of scuba divers that get out and try to clean up the oceans. And our official mission is working for a debris-free sea. When I first moved to California in '79, I immediately started diving around the kelp forest of Laguna Beach and Catalina Island. On those dives, I'd come across these ghost traps. They were all over the place. You'd see them on almost every dive. Imagine going to Yellowstone or Yosemite and you see a shopping cart there. Are you going to leave it there? That's how I feel about the ocean. So when I was doing a recreational dive, I came across another abandoned trap. And this one had a bunch of lobsters stuck in it. And so I decided to set them free. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I had never handled a lobster before. I grabbed that trap and I was shaking it upside down, trying to get them, get out of the door, trying to get them out of there. And the other divers in the area saw me, and you could see they were laughing their butts off. So they came over and they released them with me. And then when we got to the surface, they told people what had happened down there. The seed that was planted in my brain happened that day, that I felt, well, maybe there's enough interest out here to do something about it. Ghost gear is abandoned commercial fishing gear, and it comes in several forms. This is an example of netting that's left behind. It's designed to last 650 years in the environment. And again, you can see the size of the mesh is really, really small. Nothing's going to get through this. So a whale, a dolphin, turtle, sea lion gets caught in these things and they're toast. We've removed roughly 60,000 pounds of these nets over the years from the border to Mexico all the way up to Ventura County. We also have a big problem with abandoned lobster traps, and this is one we got off of Ventura a couple months ago, and there were, as I recall, 7 animals stuck in this thing. A boat propeller cut this, and now that thing is continually killing animals for the next, who knows, it could be 2 years. And we're finding this stuff all over Southern California. So it's really crucial that we get this stuff out of there.
Go as two groups of 2. Yeah. Okay, and then one group does a survey around.
The one that always sticks with you is the first trap you find and see it going to the surface. You feel this tremendous sense of accomplishment. One dive that really sticks out in my mind was just right out here. I found 2 traps that were tied together, so they were clearly illegal because each trap is supposed to have its own float to the surface. And we got some bolt cutters, cut the lids off, and rescued probably 60 lobsters that would go on to continue the lobster population. So that was huge. Every little action makes a big impact. This is not a one and done type of mission. As long as there are traps in the water and abandoned nets, we'll always have volunteer work to do.
I've been diving for 12 years actually, and coming across just trash and as well as fishing gear is actually quite common when you're a recreational diver or when you are working as a diver. I actually got caught in fishing line myself and couldn't get myself untangled, and I had to wait for someone to come cut me out. If I can't get out, how could a whale or a seal? So when the traps are down on the ocean floor, there are a hard surface that a lot of different kinds of species can really easily cling onto and grow on. So as you can see here, we've got a bunch of little brittle stars that are using it.
The fishing industry, they discard a lot of the nets throughout the world. You see these big trawlers out on the open ocean, and when their nets get damaged, they just throw the net over the side. And then the traps, they continually kill animals. They capture animals, and then those animals that are in the traps become bait for other fish or crabs to come in and feed on. In the beginning of ODA's outings, I really didn't work with the fishermen very well, I admit that. But then as time went on, I started talking to the fishermen, and they're a little more open to the idea of ODA removing these things now than they were in the beginning. It's turning out really well. Is the world familiar with what's going on in the oceans? For the most part, they don't pay attention. They just want to know that they can eat the seafood. If they were to understand that 680,000 tons of fishing gear are abandoned into the sea every year, that's a staggering amount. So our job as environmentalists is to make people aware of that. People wonder, what keeps me going? And it is very daunting. And it's too big for one person to take on, and I understand that. So one of the things that I highly promote for young people especially is get to know what's in your own backyard. Once you start looking into this world, you look at nature totally differently. What gives me hope is working with young people when I start seeing the look in their eyes and the enthusiasm they have and the abilities to start addressing these things. What I do see in areas that we've cleaned up, whereas before we would see, fish that are about 6 inches long. And now when you go back to those wrecks, you're seeing hundreds of large fish. So you know that you can make a difference, even if it's just for that one area. My hope is that people can really look into themselves, really draw into your own being. What are you here for? Are you here to make this a better place, or are you here to exploit it? I choose a better place.